This is a nightmare.
I've been in the streets for at least 15 years now.
Tonight is a critical night.
Thank you, Bucky. But I survived. I made it.
Welcome, Homeless Life Stories.
This is a real late-night story from the streets of Boston told through the eyes of those living without a home. Officially, the city says it is addressing homelessness, but the numbers tell a different story. By 2025, Boston will be spending nearly $1 billion a year on housing and homeless services. Yet an estimated 4,500 people still have no home. That means roughly 1 out of every 150 residents is in crisis. On the surface, Boston is booming. The median home price hovers around $750,000. Tech offices light up the seaport, and more than 2,000 coffee shops are packed with laptops and ladder art. But just a few blocks away, outreach teams are handing out blankets to people trying to survive winter nights that drop below 23 decks. The city clears encampments on Monday, and by Friday, the tents are back. Shelters are full while luxury apartments sit half empty. Behind every optimistic press release is a quieter headline we never read. For thousands in Boston, the American dream doesn't have an address. Tonight, Homeless Life Stories goes beyond the talking points. We follow the money, listen to the people living through this crisis, and ask the question no one at a ribbon-cutting ceremony wants to answer. If nearly $1 billion a year still isn't enough to help people out of homelessness, then what is Boston getting wrong?
Now their job is to what? Check the tents. Did nobody check and see who was in the tent? They just ran over them.
The reality of homelessness in Boston, a city split in two. Boston, one of America's leading centers of education and healthcare, is facing a shocking paradox. Every night, more than 4,500 people have nowhere to sleep, even though the city spends nearly $1 billion a year on support programs. While 300 construction cranes rise across the skyline and average rent climbs to $2,800 for a one-bedroom. Thousands of people are curled up on sidewalks in 23 degrees cold. In the seaport, office workers sip $7 lattes just a few meters away from flimsy tents, a scene that exposes the brutal gap between prosperity and despair. South Station, Boston Common, and the areas around Back Bay have become outdoor dormitories where people experiencing homelessness try to survive one winter night at a time. The worst of it all is Mass and Cass, the so-called epicenter of the crisis. Police clear the encampments on Monday, but by the weekend, tents reappear. It's an endless loop of sweep, return, neglect. The face of this crisis is someone like Maria, 29. She lost her cafe job, her rent surged, and with no family to fall back on, she went from tenant to sleeping on a corner of Massachusetts Avenue in just 3 months. Her dream of becoming a nurse now lives only inside the worn-out backpack she carries from place to place each night. Boston is proud of its innovation, medicine, and universities, but it is failing at the most basic human standard, a warm place to sleep for its most vulnerable residents. The question is simple and devastating. How can a city this wealthy let so many people fall into the freezing dark? The roots that brought Boston to its knees. To understand why Boston, one of the wealthiest, most academic, and most technologically advanced cities in America, still allows more than 4,500 people to wander the streets every night, we have to look straight at the raw roots behind its polished surface. First is the rent trap. By 25, the average rent for a one-bedroom apartment in Boston will have passed $2,800 a month, among the highest in the country. At the same time, tens of thousands of service workers, from cafe baristas and restaurant staff to hotel workers, earn only $16–18 an hour. At that wage, more than half of their income evaporates just to keep a small roof over their heads. One shock, an illness, an accident, or a cut in work hours is enough to send them into free fall. Next is the near-frozen supply of affordable housing. Only about 13% of the housing stock is income restricted, while waiting lists stretch 3 to 5 years. Many new projects target middle-income earners, while the poor, the ones who need housing the most, are left standing on the sidelines. Boston is also struggling with a mental health crisis. The state of Massachusetts is short more than 1,000 professionals in this field, leaving thousands without timely care. For people experiencing homelessness, having no address, no documents, and no stability makes accessing medical services almost impossible. And behind those numbers are quiet fractures, families breaking apart, divorces, teenagers kicked out of their homes, domestic violence, and people returning from war carrying pain no one can see. One of them is James, 52, a Gulf War veteran. He came back with PTSD, lost his job, then his home, and gradually his circle of close friends. Now James lives in a small shelter on Albany Street, trying to restart his life with just a few old belongings stuffed into a torn plastic bag. On some nights, he says all he wants is to be called by his real name, not just homeless. In those moments, the words of Isaiah 58:7 sound like a reminder of society's responsibility. Share your bread with the hungry and bring the poor who are cast out into your house. Not to bind anyone with religion, but to remind Boston, a city overflowing with intellect and resources, that the one thing it still lacks is a safety net fast enough, deep enough, and humane enough to catch the people who are falling. Thinking. The crumbling safety net, when Boston's support system buckles under the weight. Boston prides itself on having one of the strongest social safety nets in the Northeast, but by 2025, that safety net is shredding under the sheer scale of the homelessness crisis. The city's largest shelter, Pine Street Inn, houses about 400 people each night, but when temperatures drop to 5 degrees, demand doubles, forcing staff to lay mats across the hallways. Even then, more than 1,200 people still sleep outside, according to Healthcare for the Homeless. Mass Health provides services to around 40,000 people experiencing homelessness every year, but bureaucratic barriers, like the requirement to list an address, exclude hundreds right from the start, a cruel paradox that has persisted for a decade. The mental health care system also can't keep up. With Massachusetts short over 1,000 clinicians, wait times stretch from 6 to 12 weeks, long enough for a personal crisis to snowball into an irreversible disaster. Sup kitchens such as Boston Rescue Mission serve 10,000 meals a week, but leaders openly admit they are just patching holes in a system that's splitting apart. Sarah, 33, exposes that gap all too clearly. After fleeing an abusive relationship, she and her 2 children returned away 3 times in 1 week because shelters were full. Through tears, she said, "It's not the cold that's killing me. It's feeling like I'm completely unseen." Boston is not just short on beds, doctors, or funding. The city is short on a system humane enough to truly keep its people from hitting bottom. Solutions on paper, real change, or just temporary band-aids? Boston entered 2025 with a wave of anti-homelessness plans, announced in confident tones and bold promises. But the reality on the streets tells a more complicated story. Efforts do exist, yet the crisis is moving faster than the solutions. The city has poured more than $200 million into developing affordable housing, along with tax incentives to boost housing first projects. Today, Boston has around 1,500 housing first units in operation, a genuinely effective model, because it gives people what they need first: stability, a roof, a door that locks, before asking them to rebuild the rest of their lives. But by February 2025, the waiting list had already passed 5,000 applications. That means, for every 1 person who finds a home, 3 others are still waiting in limbo. In winter, 24/7 warming centers open across the city, serving about 2,000 people each night. Yet experts warn these are only temporary shields that keep people from freezing to death. They do not help them step out of the cycle of homelessness itself. Boston has also rolled out mobile health units, visiting around 15 areas a week and providing emergency care to more than 12,000 people a year. But the budget to expand this fleet is facing a proposed 12% cut in 2025, raising fears that these services will slow down at the exact moment the city needs them most. One of the few bright spots is the Workforce Innovation Program, which trains around 1,200 people a year for jobs in healthcare and construction. However, only 38% managed to secure stable employment, far below the original expectations. Boston is trying, but so far those efforts still look like they're chasing the crisis from behind, never quite catching up. In this context, a line from Proverbs 31:8 echoes as a deeply human reminder. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Not to place a religious obligation on anyone, but to remind Boston and all of us that half measures cannot save people who are already hanging on at the edge between survival and loss. Only when the city dares to look directly at the roots of the problem and chooses to put human lives above budget spreadsheets will there be any real hope of turning the tide. Proposed solutions, pathways out, or just plans on paper? Boston stepped into 2025 with a series of breakthrough proposals meant to reverse the homelessness crisis. But many experts warn that a lot of these solutions sound stronger on paper than they are on the ground. The flagship idea is to expand housing first by 5,000 units by 2030. However, current construction progress is only about 8% of the target per year, putting the timeline at risk of lagging at least 4 years behind. A shortage of buildable land and an 11% rise in construction costs are pushing total expenses faster than funding can keep up. Non-profit coalitions have proposed micro apartments of 180 to 250 square feet, which would be about 40% cheaper than standard units. But neighborhood resistance over community character has stalled more than 12 projects. To break the cycle of poverty, Boston is considering opening 20 community mental health centers, designed to serve 25,000 people a year. Yet Massachusetts is already short more than 1,000 mental health professionals, raising serious questions about staffing. Economists are urging the city to reform zoning laws. Currently, only 8% of the land in Back Bay allows multifamily housing. Without change, affordable housing will remain stuck at a bottleneck. On paper, Boston has no shortage of proposals. But the real question is, does the city have enough political will to turn vision into reality? A personal reflection: when a city grows, but its heart is left behind. Walking through Boston in 2025 feels like moving through two cities at once. One city of prosperity, and another of people left last in line. In the morning, Copley Square buzzes with more than 50,000 passers-by a day, long lines of office workers waiting for $6 coffees. Beneath skyscrapers worth billions, Boston is still short more than 70,000 affordable housing units, a gap no statistic can soften. Every face on the sidewalk is a fractured story. Homeless Life Stories documents these lives not to shock viewers, but to remind the city that progress means nothing if it leaves the most vulnerable behind. Once, at South Station, where 250,000 people move through every day, I saw a man clutching an old family photo, his eyes holding no hope, only memory. He used to be a truck driver. One accident took his job, then his home, and finally his belief that society still sees him. Boston loves to call itself the intellectual capital of America, but its greatest paradox isn't a lack of knowledge, it's a lack of connection. Sometimes a nod, a look, or a few minutes of conversation can be the last thread pulling someone back from the edge of isolation. The lingering question is this: the city might grow smarter and richer, but can it grow more humane? Conclusion: Boston at a crossroads. Boston in 2025 is a city with two faces. On one side, 670,000 residents, 300 construction cranes, and world-class universities. On the other, 4,000 people experiencing homelessness, scattered across 89 miles of streets in a brutal war zone. This crisis is no longer just a social issue, it's a full scan of the city's moral health. Data shows that support programs from Housing First to hundreds of millions of dollars in investment are helping, but not enough. On average, it takes Boston 2 years to move a person from homelessness into subsidized housing. In that time, many lose their jobs, their relationships, and their hope. The 2025 report highlights 72% of people experiencing homelessness describe themselves as invisible in their own city. And 1/3 say no one has ever asked them a simple question: what do you need to keep going? That is a gap no subsidy can fill on its own. Boston now faces a clear choice: keep patching the problem, or rebuild the way it sees and treats the people living at the margins. At the end of this report, Homeless Life Stories leaves one short question. In a city famous for education, technology, and innovation, can we innovate our compassion too? And who among us will be the first to start?